I'm advancing in my years, I thought this was a particularly interesting article that Renee sent me. This is how you live to 100. So if you want to blow out the candles on your 100th birthday cake, the key may lie in...
weight.
Watching your waistline over the 4 preceding decades. Now, new research from the University of California in San Diego found that women, and this study is about women mostly, who kept their weight stable after the age of 60 were more likely to achieve exceptional longevity. Compared with those who lost 5% or more of their body weight, women whose weight didn't change were between 1.2 and 2 times more likely to reach the ages of 90, 95 and 100. The research was based on data on more than 54,000 participants in a US study examining the causes of chronic disease amongst postmenopausal women. This is particularly pertinent because of the obesity epidemic in this country.
And I also want to just put a caveat in there about the weight loss. The weight loss was unexplained weight loss.
Indeed.
And unexplained weight loss is quite often linked to cancer. So that's probably why those women do not then go on to live longer. Keeping your weight stable or losing your excess weight if you're overweight is beneficial.
It is.
That's what's important.
And joining us now is Monica Price, who's a nutritionist. She's also a broadcaster and health and wellbeing expert. Good morning to you.
Good morning, David. Good morning, Renee. How are you both?
Yeah, really good. Really good. Thank you very much indeed. Now worried about what I'm eating. Not really.
But you're not a menopausal woman.
I'm not yet. I may be soon. But also, what do you make about this study, Monica?
Yeah, well, this is a really important study, actually, David. I mean, 54,000, that's a big study in the US, as you've said. And, you know, this really says to me what I've already been thinking. You know, as we get older, as we get wiser, I like to say, particularly in women, we have tremendous hormone problems and all linked to our thyroid. I think the thyroid isn't spoken about enough, to be honest, David. I think it's, especially as women get older, especially as we go through the menopause, and as you know, it regulates every single hormone in our body, and it's crucial to all the cells in our body. And it was interesting when I read this study, I immediately thought, you know, this is linked to thyroid, because when women come to me for help, particularly at the ages of 60, 65, 70, it's usually because they've gained weight or, as Renee's just said, they've lost weight. And it's those two things, that's it. And all of those things around it, you know, fatigue, feeling dizzy, feeling anxious, just not feeling themselves. Often people come to me and say, you know, I just don't feel myself anymore. And I think when we have studies like this, I think it's really important. And as you say, it was linked mainly to women. We were talking about women. And of course, our hormones, our metabolism as we go through the menopause can completely change how a woman has normally been. And it's horrendous. It can be horrendous for some women. And there's so much spoken about the menopause now. And so I think I welcome studies like this, because it tells us that we do have to maintain our stable weight, and we do have to really focus on our bodies. And unfortunately, David, we don't. You know, we tend to, it's almost, you know, I speak to some women. I had a group the other day and they were saying, oh, you know, well, I've got to 80, you know, I can eat what I like, you know, but fundamentally they've got some chronic diseases, you know, that they've been to the doctor. And that's where we kind of have this kind of, if you like, we don't compare, we're not compatible. We're not sort of correlating the fact that our health is going to lead on to developing chronic diseases. And I think that's where we need to kind of come together and say, do you know what? Focus on your health. Your health is your #1 priority, rather than say, oh, you know, I'm getting older. I've eaten healthy all my life. I don't need to worry about it now. Unfortunately, you do. It's really important.
So that's so interesting. Just in terms of that, now, body mass index is the way that we measure this. It's weight divided by height squared. It gives you a number. Now, when you come out with these numbers, so for people who are wondering what is normal, the normal range is 18, if we do that calculation, 18 to 25, say.
That's right.
But what we are finding in this country is that something like 3/4 of adults are overweight or indeed obese. We have a major problem going on here. It is so multifactorial, isn't it, in terms of why on earth are we getting so fat?
And that is exactly it. It is multifactorial, and we need to really address it. I think, I can't believe in this day and age that we have so much now around health and well-being. Particularly after COVID, I thought people would really start to focus on their health and really realise that is the top number one priority to be able to live a much longer life and a healthier life. But unfortunately, we've fallen back into the old ways. Obesity is on the increase, alarmingly, particularly with our children, which is very alarming. And also, as you say, for women over 60, 65, we've seen an increase in obesity. And again, I think, David, what it is, I do think there's this kind of perception that, I'm just a little bit older, so, I feel a bit anxious, I don't need to worry about it. Oh, I'm feeling really tired. Oh, I don't need to go to the doctor. I would say people come to me, but I always refer them to their GP. Go to your doctor. If you're feeling very sluggish, if you're feeling fatigued, and when I mean fatigued, if you're feeling that you really can't carry out your normal day-to-day duties, then something is wrong. And that's why when I read this study, David, I immediately thought of the thyroid. I don't know about you, but I immediately thought, the thyroid is such an important gland in your body. And it, as as I say, it regulates your metabolism. Okay. So we've seen an increase in the underactive thyroid. But I think there's more and more people that are not diagnosed with it. And I think they need to really look at their bodies, start to change their diets, and then if something doesn't change, if you've been to a nutritionist and you've been put on a really, healthy plan, a balanced plan, and you're still finding that something's not right, then go to your GP and get your thyroid checked out.
Okay.
I think it's really important.
Okay, let's move to our resident doctor. Hello, doctor.
Okay, hello. So our resident doctor who doesn't have a thyroid.
Yes, you don't.
I had thyroid cancer.
Oh, right.
I had it removed when I was 33. So I know very well how important a gland, the thyroid gland, is. I'm going to write a book one day about how important it is when I get time. So I agree with you, Monica, that we should always be checking people's thyroid. And if someone comes to us who is tired all the time, of course we will check it. There's a couple of things to know. Thyroid disease is a disease of women. So 1 in 50 women will get thyroid disease, 1 in 1,000 men. So it really is a disease of women. We also have to know that the symptoms of underactive or overactive thyroid are very similar to the symptoms of menopause. So at menopause, I always check the thyroid. I correct that first if it's out of range, and then what's left I treat as menopause. And we can do that in many ways. We can do it with HRT, we can do it with phytoestrogenic food supplements or dietary supplements. But it's important to know, the one thing that you and I, David, knew when we worked in a hospital the first time is you've got wards of people that are overweight who have diabetes, hip problems, knee problems, and then you have the elderly wards where people over 90 are always tiny young women, tiny old women who weigh
really
50 kilos, but they've lived to that long life because they only weigh 50 kilos. So it's really important to say in this study that getting to an optimal weight and staying there is the key. And in menopause, you need at least 300 calories less a day. After menopause, your body...
So 300 calories, so for people who are working that out, what would you cut out then? What's 300 calories?
So I think it's always the easiest place to hit calories is with carbs, complex carbs. We don't need complex carbs.
Like
protein.
Pasta.
Protein is much better for you. Forget the potatoes, the bread, the carbs. Go for protein, good, healthy protein, unprocessed food, and think about it that way. Because after menopause, you lay down your fat in a different way as well. It goes around your midriff, and that's what brings heart disease.
It feels the same in men to me, to be quite honest. Monica?
No, but it's true. All what you're saying, Renee, is very true. And I think it's, again, you think that, with everything that there's books and everybody's talking about the menopause now, and everybody is very aware of it, but we're still not quite getting it right. So again, if you're feeling that your weight is too much, or indeed you're losing weight, then do something about it. Don't leave it. Look at your diet. I always say do a food plan. It's the best thing to do. Just write down everything you're eating and drinking, including all of your snacks. Just do that for a week and then just see. And often actually people aren't eating enough. Or if they're eating the wrong things, and by cutting some of the carbs out, which is what you've suggested, Renee, that would be something that I would suggest as well. It's really packing your diet with a varied protein. Yes, you can have the fats. Yes, you can have some carbs, but vary your diet. And unfortunately, I think another thing as well, particularly with the elderly, we are living longer. So more and more people now are going into assisted living, are going into retirement homes, care homes, and we need to really look at those as well, because a lot of those retirement homes are not providing nutritional meals for their patients. They're just not.
No, and that's a really brilliant point. It's really interesting in this study, actually. 56% of women in the study survived to age 90 or beyond by losing 5% of their weight over a 3-year period when compared with keeping weight stable. Interestingly, I know from my own personal experience, cutting out carbs, which I've done, no carbs before marbs, remember, that has made a massive difference in terms of all of those complex carbohydrates. Now, I've got a bit of a surprise for you, because someone who does know a lot about growing old disgracefully, which is something I admire enormously, is the lovely Rabina from Essex. Good morning.
Good morning, my lovely.
Hello, hello. Now, just remind everyone, because you're in rude health. How old are you, Rabina?
I was 96 last week.
Oh, happy birthday!
Well done.
Yeah. And so Rabina, we speak often, and I'm really pleased to hear you're well and thriving and a youthful and sprightly 96. Now, what make of the study, and what is your secret to living such a long and fabulous life?
Be interested in what's going on around you. Always watch talkTV, eat sensibly, and keep interested in the world.
Wonderful advice.
You just fade away.
Yeah, and what do you... and can I be rude and personal? What, in terms of your weight, have you always watched your weight? Do you think this study is right?
Well, yes, I've always watched my weight, but as I've got a bit older, I've lost a bit more weight. Lost a little weight because I don't eat quite so much. But nevertheless, I stay interested. I do as much walking as I can, which is not a lot these days. And as I've told you before, I speak to my best friend daily, and that's how we keep going.
You were pen pals, weren't you?
All the time, because there's nothing else but talkTV in our lives.
Oh, you are. Go on, Renee.
Were your best friend, was she your pen pal originally, Rabina?
No, we grew up together.
Oh, you grew up together.
So Monica, what do you... Rabina is quite something anyway, generally. Quite something. But also, just for her, maybe you've got some advice. Rabina's 96, you know, we'd like her to keep going until she's 196. So, tips, nutritional advice. So Rabina says she is doing exercise, which is great. And also, she can't eat as much as she gets older. So what sort of advice could you give her?
I would say, you know, make sure the diet's packed with greens, which I suspect it probably is. So lots of greens, so spinach, watercress. You know, we're in the summer at the moment. Well, hopefully we are for a little bit longer. But it's sunny at the moment. So, you know, lots of greens. Add green to your diet every day. I think that's really important. And try and get out, at least if you can, even if you can sit outside for 10 minutes, that really makes you just feel better. It's so wonderful that she engages and she talks to her friend every day. I think you see, that's mentally really important. And I think if you're mentally in a good state, that's all part of your well-being as well. And of course, drink water. So, you know, lots of people come to me with problems and they just aren't drinking enough water. And I suspect that, you know, she drinks water and keeps an eye on her diet. And I think those are the really, really good things. And it doesn't really matter that she's not eating lots. It's about what she's eating. That's the key as you get older. It's about it's about quality rather than quantity.
And does that make sense to you, Rabina?
Yes, it does. And I love my greens. And what I sometimes have is a bowl full of buttered sprouts.
Oh, lovely.
Lovely. I have to say, I've started buying sprouts again.
Oh, my goodness.
I, too, am going to hopefully emulate Rabina. Rabina, I'm so thrilled to hear from you this morning. Stay well.
Well, I love you both. You know that.
Oh, and we love you.
We love you.
And you both look very spiffy today.
Well, thank you so much. I'm sure you do too. Thank you so much to Rabina. Thank you also, Monica, for your advice there. Monica Price, nutritionist, broadcaster and health and wellbeing expert. I told you that was a little surprise. And also, I do drink water. I drink lots of water.
Far too much.
Where you say I drink too much. But, I mean, so interesting, isn't it? And so that was the key to living a long life. And that was today's Sunday Surgery.